My first posting was in a place down south, and one day, those are the days when we did not have door closers on our office doors. We used to have curtains. A gentleman just peeped behind from the curtain and he went away. I was a little surprised. I ignored it. It didn't really matter to me. Then again, after 2-3 days, I found him. So then I asked my staff, I said, please check what is the problem with him. So then they told me he wants to meet you. I said, okay, let him come. Then he comes in and he tells me, oh, your name should have been Lakshmi, not Rashmi. There's no such word as Rashmi. So please get it corrected on your name board.
Okay, why?
Because this was down south and Rashmi is a very North Indian name.
Oh.
So it should be Lakshmi. And then I asked my staff, I said, I don't think that could be the real reason. He said, no, he wanted to see what does a lady officer look like.
She doesn't hesitate to walk the extra mile to help people. Very often, she went beyond the call of duty to rush and help people in distress in different parts of the country. Not only she ensured better amenities and facility for her staff in her every posting, but also mobilized her team to extend support for people facing any natural disaster. Hello and welcome. This is Pallavi, and today I am with Mrs. Rashmi Saxena Sahni, who is an IRS officer of 1984 batch. She retired in July 2022, and now she is serving as an administrative member in Central Administrative Tribunal, Chandigarh bench. Welcome, ma'am, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Hello, Pallavi. Thank you for having me on board.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I would like to ask you about your journey as an IRS officer. Like, you served for almost 3 decades. Now you are a member of CAT. How has this transition worked for you? How is it different for a woman to be in such roles?
Transition? Well, to be honest, I would say that having worked for 38 years in a very structured environment of rules, regulations, and hierarchy, to be part of the tribunal was like a breath of fresh air, in the sense tribunal gives you mental space to take your decision. And it took me a while, I will be honest to say that, to have that change in mindset from being within a structured organization to in an organization where you had much more mental freedom to take a decision. But once the transition was made, the mindset had changed. I think it's been a smooth going now. It's almost been a year since I've been a member of Administrative Tribunal. Yeah. And I think it's been a wonderful journey so far.
Okay, so if you want to differentiate between the two roles, what would you say that that is actually entirely different for an IRS officer and being a member of, tribunal, in any tribunal? So one major difference.
As I said, a mindset change. When you are in a organization, whichever organization or service, you are bound by rules and regulations. You have a certain hierarchy to follow. And when you move away from that onto the other side of the table, then you realize that very often the rules and regulations which you sought to implement were not very fair to some people in certain situations. Yeah. And in the tribunal or in a judicial position where you adjudicate, you do have that freedom to make a course correction, if possible. So that is one major fundamental difference. The thinking process has to change. While you're in an organization, you're thinking only from an organizational point of view, what is good for it, what is bad for it, and how you fit into that role. When you're on the adjudicating side, you look at the entire thing in a very wholesome perspective. Yes, rules are there, regulations are there, the person must fit into it, but yet, if he has a problem, how can justice be given to him in a particular situation, him or her? So that's a major mindset change.
Yeah, so like when you sit on that chair, like you are listening to anybody's case and all, so sometimes there might be conflict, na? You might be thinking, this is right, this is wrong, but you have to go by the books, by the law. So has that conflict ever happened in any case of yours, and would you like to talk about it?
Yes, you have to listen. You listen to both the sides. Listen to the person who has a grievance. You listen to the person who's defending it. That means the organization which is defending and giving its own perspective. And sometimes there are multiple players in a particular case. The person's grievance may be resulting in 2-3 organizations being involved in giving justice to him. And when you go through the rules and regulations, sometimes you feel uh, the rules have been unnecessarily harsh. There was a possibility of discretion. It could have been used for the person. So then when you look at the decision making process, that is something which you keep in mind. Sometimes you also realize there are frivolous appeals where people are not entitled to something and they want judicial intervention to help them get that result which they want, which is not really the correct thing. So you see both the sides, and
Any
it's
example you would like to, share about those cases where they are unnecessarily they want to use the judicial system?
there was a case where the arguing counsel kept saying that my case is covered by certain decisions which act as a precedent. And the other side, of course, contested it. So we decided, okay, we will pass the order subsequently after listening to all the arguments and closing the arguments.
Mhm.
We went through the file and we realized it was totally mischievous. The person was not eligible and he was trying to use judicial intervention to get the job which he was not eligible for. So obviously that was rejected. But sometimes you do have cases, for example, there are cases where people have to fill online forms
Right.
and get rejected online because they made a minor mistake, like if the date of birth is 17th January
Mhm.
2006 or 7, whatever. So instead of 17 January, sometimes we all face that cursor slips and it'll be only 7 January. So
Right.
the rest of the documents, the data, everything is perfectly fine. But because it is an online system, it gets rejected. Then when you see the preponderance of evidence which supports his case, then you feel that minor mistake can be overlooked
Right.
and give decisions accordingly. So it
Right.
works both ways.
Okay. And in the starting only, you were mentioning that there is when you are in like administrative work, there is certain hierarchy, there are certain rules that you have to follow and all. But in judiciary also, I think there is limitation. You still have to go by the book. So according to you, uh, what kind of limitations you think is for them, and how you can manage it? Like how can they be uplifted or not? Like what kind of changes you think there should be incorporated when it comes to judiciary?
Judiciary definitely gives you much more freedom to think and take a considered decision, because you can always use precedents. Precedent means if on a particular issue there's another case law, some high court or some other tribunal has decided, or Supreme Court, you can always take help of those decisions, both to support your case or also to distinguish your case. The major problem which we find, which everybody's been talking in public space, is that yes, we need better litigation management, because the number of people who are coming forth before the courts is quite a few, and it does take a while to give a decision. So the procedures, probably we need to revise some of the procedures. Somewhere where we can cut short, we need to do that. So that could, otherwise judiciary will take its time because it has to balance both the sides. It has also got some rules and regulations, not that we are without any rules and regulations. When a issue of a particular organization comes, and you see what are the rules and regulations of that organization and how they are being violated or not, how the appellant has violated those rules or not. So we have to go through, it has to be an intensive scrutiny, because if for by any chance in the organization the person has a grievance because the rule has not been applied correctly, the judiciary is the place where that course correction can be done. So we have to also go through a lot of rules and regulations, a lot of reading, a lot of extra information and input has to come to us. But yes, procedural delays can probably be, reduced. So procedural delays means filing the case, then, issue of notice, reply from the parties, rejoinders, etc. Those are procedural delays. Maybe we can put a time limit to them that if you've been given 2 weeks time to file a reply, you must file it in 2 weeks.
Right.
But sometimes when they come up and say ki nahi, hum nahi kar paaye because whatever, they may be having reasons, maybe somebody's fallen sick and all. So, but once it comes in the rotation, it keeps on going. Like if something has come up today and you were supposed to file a reply and you've not been able to file a reply, then when it goes for hearing for the next this thing, it could come after 2 months because there are other cases in between.
Right. So one has to manage that. Any like now coming to your experiences and your job in IRS, Indian Revenue Services, like you served, I think more than around 3 decades or more than that. I would like to understand, like, is it different? Like, I want to talk about from the women perspective. Do you think it is different to be in service as as a woman than men? Like, is it easier? Is it tougher? What is it? I'm talking about across the services, not IRS as per se, but across the services.
As you mentioned, I've spent about 38 years in service. A lot has changed in these 38 years. When I look back, yes, it was a tough time for women in 80s and 90s when I joined the service in 84. And the number of women in public spaces were much lesser numbers. So obviously, there was some resistance, but which has now, I find, got diluted over the years because more educated women are coming into public domain. They are picking up various kinds of jobs and this thing. So that resistance to women, if you would like to say gender discrimination, has also started getting diluted, which is a good thing.
Right.
And I would say that in the 21st century, the discriminations are much lesser.
But it's there. It's lesser, but it's there.
It will take its time because it was something which was there.
Yeah, obviously.
When I look back, I find it's much lesser. It's much, much lesser now. And apart from that, my feeling is that discrimination of any kind will happen if you don't stand up for yourself, whether you're a man or a woman. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to make your position very clear. And if you have ceded your space because there were some pressures on you, whatever kind, you have to reclaim that space. And if you reclaim that space, then people will not push you, they'll step back. So
Right.
whether you're a man or a woman, you need to stand up for yourself and
Right.
reclaim your spaces. That's my view.
Okay, now coming to the choices. Recently, I have seen a trend. Like earlier, I think when whoever cleared UPSC, CSC, I think Indian Foreign Services was their first choice. In recent years, IS obviously has become the first choice, and second is around IPS or IRS. And when you see about for women, I think many women are preferring IPS, IRS over IPS. So do you think it is because kind of IRS is 9 to 5 job if you leave the rare field rates and all, which suits women? So do you think that is the reason why women prefer IRS?
No, I don't think the choice is probably a result of your own personality traits and your own attributes. Since you picked up IRS versus IPS right now, it's very interesting. I am from the revenue service. My younger sister is in the IPS.
Okay.
So it's just our personality traits, probably. Yeah. So the choice is more on that. And definitely, yes, IRS gives you more stability, if you would like to put it that way. Mm-hmm. In the sense you could be in big cities and towns and not so much of shifting. So family wise, it may be. So it depends on your own choice, what choice you make. not necessarily this. And yes, women in uniform are much more glamorous.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
that's also a bit of it. Whether it's police or armed forces, you find more women taking it up.
Mm,
But it's all part of your own mental makeup and your own choices, honestly.
right. Now that मतलब just now you are mentioning कि बहुत सारे जो difference थे, discriminations थे that have been blurred. But earlier in your time when you started, I think there were so many stereotypes associated with women, whether they were in IPS or any IAS. बहुत सारे officers have shared me that their subordinates didn't want to take orders from them. You know that just because they are women. So when I talk about, I would like to come to this IRS. This is a totally financial job, and still there is a stereotype for women that they are not so good in finances. So do you think, have you ever been made felt that you are not efficient for your role in your earlier days? I'm not talking about the later, but earlier.
No, I think women balance the budget of the house. So how
Right.
can they be poor in finance?
No, no, but there is a stereotype that they are not good in maths and all. They are for arts and all things. So that is why.
Yeah, I do agree in a lighter vein. Yes, that stereotype. But today, our finance minister is a woman.
Right.
Banks were headed by women recent past. SEBI chairman is a woman. There are lots of CAs. There are a lot of people who join economics. So
Hmm.
I think those stereotypes, they were there, but they're slowly breaking down as, as I mentioned earlier, as more and more women are coming into public domain, more
Mhm.
and more women are reaching higher educational levels. These stereotypes will break down, and that is what happens every generation. The stereotype of one generation breaks down in the next generation
Hmm.
because there is somebody or the other who comes up and starts a trend.
Right.
So, and that is the beauty of life and most exciting part of being part of this journey is that you what you thought was a stereotype today is no longer a stereotype tomorrow. It breaks down, and
Right.
that evolution process is the most challenging process and exciting also.
Yeah. But again, I'll go back to that you are talking about today's time, right? But when you joined, I think there were हम लोग उंगली पे गिन सकते थे for the officers who are in civil servant higher position पे. So that time कभी ऐसा हुआ that you are denied any position or any work just because you are a woman? Or you were not preferred over men. If there is a competition, they will obviously choose a man for that job and won't choose you. So has it ever happened to you?
Yes, I would say in my earlier years in the service, once or twice it happened, but then I made a lot of noise and I claimed my space back. I said, you can't do this. So
Mhm.
it depends on your personality. As I said earlier, you have to stand up for yourself. If you continue taking it, yes, people will walk over you. But if you stand up and say, no, I'm equally competent, I deserve it, and I should get it, you will get it.
So moreover, it's like you have to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, nobody else will speak for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Pallavi, that happens in life. If you don't stand up for yourself, why should others stand up for you?
Right.
Except maybe your mother,
Hmm.
and in some cases your father
Right.
and your family. But otherwise, it's even they will stand up for you if they find that you are standing up for yourself. Then they'll come and support you.
Yeah, if they obviously it comes down to that. If you are you are totally sure about your decision, then only other will come and support you. So now, ma'am, like now when you look back as your service for over 38 years, any moment or any decision that still makes you very proud that you did it, that you would like to share?
Yes, there were lots of moments and decisions, uh, high points, which I enjoyed as a officer, and sharing. There are lots of events and issues which one would like to share on a different platform, not today.
Okay.
You mentioned about the earlier days. I would like to share one anecdote with you. about women, how my first posting was in a place down south. And one day, those are the days when we did not have door closers on our office doors. We used to have curtains.
Mm-hmm.
A gentleman just peeped behind from the curtain and he went away. I was a little surprised. I ignored it. It didn't really matter to me. Then again, after 2, 3 days, I found him. So then I asked my staff, I said, please check what is the problem with him. So then they told me he wants to meet you. I said, okay, let him come. Then he comes in and he tells me, oh, your name should have been Lakshmi, not Rashmi. There's no such word as Rashmi. So please get it corrected on your name board.
Okay, why?
Because this was down south and Rashmi is a very North Indian name. So well, it should be Lakshmi. And then I asked my staff, I said, I don't think that could be the real reason. He said, no, he wanted to see what does a lady officer look like.
Oh, okay.
That was one like, funny incident. But anyway, that said that people have over the years started accepting women in public spaces.
Right. They have become used to it, I guess. Everyone.
Yeah.
So, like अभी जब when I was talking about you और पहले भी में हमारी बात हुई है and I have done so many stories for you. एक दो जो आपके काम हैं for whenever a person is in need, especially I think disaster and all के time पे when you kind of mobilize your team and collect them. तो एक आई थिंक उड़ीसा फ्लड या उस टाइम पे कुछ किया था आपने बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा जो मैंने आपसे नहीं सुना बट देयर आर your fellow officer told me about it, like how you managed, how you spoke to them, and then you kind of arranged everything and you sent that to Odisha. So would you like to kindly share me like how you did it?
You see, I had the advantage of being the big boss at that point of time.
Yeah.
And these are calamities which bring people together. And when I spoke to my team, I found them responding. And for example, when we looked at Odisha, there was an officer from Odisha who was in touch with what was happening there. Similarly, when we did Kerala, there was another officer. So they were able to tell the team that this is what is happening there. And that inspired everybody. And you see, most of the time, what I found is you need an idea, people start, and to galvanize them. And the way the team responded, I was amazed myself. And they ensured that whatever. So I just provided them with that idea and the confidence that go ahead, there is somebody standing behind you who will help you in this. And similarly, when I was in Ministry of Women and Child, also as a joint secretary, there also we did a lot of work for children in distress. So my job was to, sort of give them that confidence, give the team that confidence. Don't worry, this is what we have to do. Guide them. Go ahead and do it. I'm there behind you. Right. So whatever support you need, whether in terms of morale boosting or in terms of resources, I'm there. So I think that's a big assurance which helps your team to move forward, that you trust them, that you have confidence in them. And when they also come up with suggestions, if you have the ability to, accept those suggestions, maybe they might need a little bit of fine tuning, do that fine tuning, then the results are amazing. That's been my motto right from beginning.
Yes. And investigation and raid, I think that is one of the most important part of being an IRS officer. कई सारी movies बन चुके हैं for that. I want to understand from you, जैसा movie में दिखाते हैं वैसा होता है the real raid situation or it is entirely different?
Movies, what you see is a glamorized version.
Right.
Of course, there are bits and pieces which are real also. Conducting a search is not an easy job. You have to do a lot of preparation for it, both in terms of, developing the investigation part, the trail for it, then also in terms of man management, in terms of execution and implementation, and whoever is the person in charge of conducting the raid is always on the toes. I can tell you that much.
Right.
And sometimes when things don't work out the way you expect them to work out, it's very disappointing. It would be disappointing in terms of you've not got the results which you expected, or some trouble occurred on the scene which was not anticipated and created problems, and you had to call off the raid. So, तो जो movies में दिखाया जाता है, of course, it's a glamorized version, but the pain which the officers go through while conducting the raid, the tenterhooks they are on, that does not, of course, come out in the movies. It comes out much more. Everything is, so easy to do it. It's not easy. Behind the back end, a lot of hard work goes into it. Until everything is over, you are absolutely on your toes.
Okay, दो चीजें. एक मूवी से एग्जाम्पल दैट यू आर काइंड ऑफ सर्चिंग ब्लैक मनी इन एनीबडीज हाउस. किसी मूवी में दिखाया लास्ट तक नहीं मिल रहा है और सडनली द ऑफिसर गॉट एन आइडिया कि ये दीवार के पीछे या छत के ऊपर हो सकता है, एंड ही वो काइंड ऑफ उसको तोड़ते हैं एंड देन पूरा का पूरा वो आ जाता है. इस टाइप से आई डोंट थिंक कि ये रियल लाइफ में होता होगा. कभी ऐसा इंसिडेंट आपने या आपकी किसी टीम ने ऐसा कभी फेस किया है कि आप कुछ ढूंढ रहे हैं एंड सडनली लास्ट मोमेंट पे कुछ ऐसा हुआ और फिर वो मिल गया हो?
बहुत बारी, स्पेशली कि दीवार में, तकिया में, गद्दे में, ये सब चीजें आई थिंक ये पुरानी सेंचुरी की हैं. आजकल जो मनी ट्रेल आपको है वो आपके कंप्यूटर हार्ड डिस्क में है बेसिकली. एंड फिजिकल सीजर अभी भी मिलता है, बिकॉज बहुत बारी लोग अपनी ज्वेलरी और पैसे, अभी भी आप पेपर में बहुत पढ़ रहे होंगे कि यहाँ पे
इतना पैसे मिले या.
तो आई थिंक as a human being, we all want to feel rich.
Right. और वो फिजिकल एविडेंसेस से ही आते हैं क्या? राइट. Okay, one more thing, like you are so sure while you are kind of establishing a trail for any, you feel कि this is an offender, you have enough evidences, you ask for the permission. Obviously I know कि without permission ऐसे मूवी की तरह तो नहीं हो सकता कि अचानक से पहुंच गए. You need to establish पूरा procedure you have to follow. और सब हो के लास्ट मोमेंट पे you don't get anything actually. You kind of, you know in the heart that this person is an offender, but you don't get the evidences. So that thing, how do you deal with your senior or with मतलब वो पूरा जो kind of failure ही है, उससे कैसे? और कभी हुआ है आपके साथ that you are you want to crack this case but you didn't get the evidences and now you have to kind of answer back to your seniors that you were right but somehow things got out of your hand, and so has it ever happened to you?
Not really, because you will never have 100% failure.
Right. Acha, aisa.
If you don't get anything physical, you will get papers, you will get money trail, you will something or the other. But yes, not to the extent you expected. And you see, when we go for search, that's a probability we all know. You can hit the jackpot, you may not. Right. So you go with that mindset, and we keep our fingers crossed कि success मिले.
और अगर नहीं मिली तो deal, like obviously अगर big deal.
It's part of life.
Okay, so you keep moving on.
Yeah.
Right. So right now यही, क्योंकि obviously हमारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं है, तो अभी जैसे पहले तो you had a proper, मतलब आपके नीचे बहुत सारे लोग काम करते, तो you were able to help other peoples by coordinating with them. Now has it changed, और किन चीजों पे फिलहाल काम कर रहे हैं आप other than being in CAT?
I am associated with a lot of people who are running NGOs because I was in the Ministry of Women and Child, and I do keep supporting them, whether it is in terms of resources or in terms of ideas or in terms of advice how to go forward and things like that. So I am still quite involved with all these things, and I think I'm blessed to that extent that I am able to contribute to such issues and connect with people. And
okay.
Even in CAT is nothing but advanced redressal mechanism for people who not really got what they think was their due. And to be able to help somebody who genuinely deserved it by way of an order, I think it's a very satisfying thing.
Yeah, obviously.
And
Justice physically, if you are ensuring, I think that is the best feeling in the world if you are able to, do that.
so that's
So,
it.
yeah, yes, ma'am. And anything like on any art front that you are doing, like you are exploring with your, thoda apne personal growth ke liye you are doing, or any book that you are planning to write about your, itna lamba experience you have, so many stories you have. So,
Yeah, I probably in due course, because I feel all of us have many stories to tell, and some which will appeal to somebody somewhere, and it may be useful for them. But yes, and I think I will do it. I have another 3 years to go in CAT. After that,
okay, after that.
yeah, I'm putting together some things. But let's see.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. It was really, it is always a pleasure to talk whenever we are talking for an interview or a story or otherwise also. So thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. It was really nice.
Thank you, Pallavi.